All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Today we have a very special guest, Kate, here. Could you just introduce yourself for me, Kate?
Sure, and thanks for having me, Seth. My name's Kate Craig. I'm the former chair of the Washington County Democratic Party. I served 4 years in that position, and I currently serve as on the executive committee for the Washington County Democratic Party. And I'm in my second term as serving as the chair of the first congressional district for the Tennessee for the Tennessee Democratic County Chairs Association. And I've been the co-chair of the Tri-Cities Women's March for 4 years now, and I have served as the interim vice chair for the East Grand Division for the Tennessee Federation of Democratic Women. In January of 2021, I ran for chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party and came in third out of 10 candidates. So you could say I'm pretty heavily involved in East Tennessee and in Tennessee Democratic politics there.
And what got you into politics initially?
I've pretty much always had a drive to want to make things better. And I grew up as a Girl Scout, and this whole notion that you leave a place better than how you found it. And while I was at ETSU, actually, during my senior year in 2003, the state legislature did massive budget cuts to higher education funding, specifically targeting Tennessee Board of Regents schools. And in that, and it was the same year that the football program left, but there was also massive cuts to colleges, which meant that programs were cut. It meant that majors were cut, that basic services that students even have today were eliminated. And in my 4 years there, I saw my tuition more than double. And that just shouldn't be the case. I mean, it should be affordable for students wanting to go. And I know that it's even higher now than it was back in 2003. So I planned a statewide walkout for students to participate in, as well as a statewide voter registration drive to give students a voice, to know that they can have a say in what's going on in the Tennessee legislature, because it's affecting their tuition payments. It's affecting the education that they're receiving. And all of the ETSU schools participated in the walkout, and a couple of the others did as well, or other TBR schools did. But all of the TBR schools, which ETSU was a TBR school at the time, participated in the voter registration drive, because, I mean, while we don't have automatic voter registration yet, and we should, this was a way to help get more students engaged in the democratic process. So I would say that was probably my first real foray into that world.
And as I'm aware, you are a part of the LGBTQ plus community. When did you realize that you were a part of that community, and what was it like coming out, especially being in the field of politics?
Well, so, I didn't actually realize it for the longest time. And looking back on it, I kind of want to, look at my younger self and go, there were lots of clues, and kind of would have taken myself under my wing and just kind of helped me accept it sooner. But I was 26 when I came out, and I'd moved to Washington, D.C., and it was, within about 6 months. And I think getting away from the pressures of here and all the things that have been childhood expectations that are put on you, and especially in the Bible Belt, where you're expected to go in, you're gonna, meet a husband, you're gonna have the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence, and have this life. And getting away from that kind of helped, I felt like my true self come through. So I was in graduate school during my first semester of graduate school when I came out, and was volunteering. I think being in DC and at American University, which is known to be an incredibly progressive university, of the student body is like 80% progressive, and disproportionately part of the LGBT community is as the student body. Like, it's a very welcoming environment. It really helped in that process, in that transition, and that, let's say, self-realization, I guess.
That's awesome. And being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, has it made your job any harder, or have you faced any kind of discrimination at work or just in general at all?
Yeah, I think that I mean, the world is going to interact with someone differently if that you don't present in the way that, and I'm going to use air quotes here, that they view as normal. And because people as a whole sometimes don't know how to handle that, unfortunately. And I hope that as more of us come out and live within our truth, that changes more. But I remember specifically when I was running to be chair of the Tennessee Democratic Party, one of the voting members of the TNDP executive committee asked me how, presenting as I do as a masculine presenting gay woman, will I go to donors and ask for donations for the Tennessee Democratic Party? And I told him, I said, I interact with the world as I do, presenting as I do every single day. I negotiate that, whether that's getting a car loan, whether that's when I go to the post office, whether that's when I go to make friends, whether that's if I go to a job interview, or any number of things that I do, everything that I do during my day, I negotiate that. And so fulfilling that job duty, as if I had gotten to be TNDP chair, ask for donations, I'm going to handle that the same way I handle everything else. And because it doesn't have to be the elephant in the room to own who I am. And I think that that's something that people see as a barrier versus just a part of an identity. I like to make the joke that when I walk into a room, there is a rainbow flag over me. I'd rather call it out and kind of make it it makes it less of a thing for everybody involved in the situation. And especially if you can find just a little bit of humor around it. And even some of it's a safety thing. But I think that it is something that we face as a female. That's something that is, that's different. And especially when you see dress codes of like, women are to wear dresses or skirts, and it's different again for me, that that's not how I'm going to present. So I think that there are barriers, but again, as more of us come out, as more of us live in our truth, that we're going to get fewer of those questions asking us how we're going to negotiate a basic everyday thing, as if it is a barrier itself.
And do you have any words of advice for younger members of the LGBTQ plus community that's interested in politics or just in general?
Yeah, I would tell them, make sure you're registered to vote, and make sure all of your friends are registered to vote. Because as frustrated as we all can be with the process and what we see coming out of Washington, the only way it gets better is if we participate. And two, don't let anyone tell you that your voice is insignificant or to wait your turn for change. Yes, we can all acknowledge that change doesn't happen in the way that we want as we keep pushing at it. So don't let anybody tell you to wait your turn or to stop pushing, because if you stop pushing thinking it's going to happen over time, then it will never happen. So please keep speaking up. Please keep getting involved. Please use your voice and run for office. Because just because you don't see somebody that looks like you leading doesn't mean that you can't do it. And so be that barrier breaker. And if you do, call me and I'll support you. Feel free. And because we need more voices that are driving this nation forward.
It's been so great hearing from you, Kate. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Seth.
All right, and we have another guest here for us. Her name is Michelle. Thank you for coming on, Michelle. If you could just give us an introduction of yourself real quick and how you know Kate, that would be great.
Okay, my name is Michelle Treese. I'm a retired teacher from Johnson City Schools. I am currently on our local school board in Johnson City. I'm a member of several other committees in town, and I consider myself a social activist. And I met Kate when she was probably in the 10th grade. at Science High School, she was one of my biology students. And so she finished my class, graduated, went away from college, and came back home. And then and I'm guessing, maybe 2016, 2017, 18, somewhere along there, I became an active member in our Washington County Democratic Party. And Kate had just been elected as the party chairperson. And so since then, I've had more of a social relationship with Kate on, meetings and doing those kind of things out with the community.
Awesome. That's great. And in your time with Kate, what has it been like working alongside with her and getting to know her?
It's one of those things that you have a relationship with this person as a student, and then when I like to say, are all grown up. Those are my Rugrat cartoon terms. When they're all grown up, I like. It's really cool to interact with her as a peer. We work together in maybe a couple of different committees, and on more so projects, I guess you would say. And it's good to see how she reacts as an adult. But she will always be one of my students, as I like to say. So it's cool. It's very cool.
That's great. And with her being in the field of politics now, what exactly makes her so good for politics?
Kate she has her opinion. She knows rules, she knows regulations, and she is steadfast. She is not easily swayed, which I think a lot of times people tend to be that way. Especially in politics, people tend to sway based on what works for them. And Kate stands by rules and regulations, and she upholds those as probably more so than anyone I can think of in politics, at least on the local level. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that sums up all the questions I had. Thank you for coming on today, and I really appreciate it.
You got it. Good luck with your project.
Thank you. We are here with our last guest, Bradley. Bradley, if you could just introduce yourself, that'd be great, and let us know how you met Kate and how you know her.
Yeah, my name is Brad Batt, and I met Kate through the local Democratic Party. She's been the chair of Washington County for about 4 years, and I met her. I got involved in politics here in East Tennessee. In 2016, I was a delegate for Bernie Sanders, and I helped a gentleman, John Baker, run for State House because I was very upset at the state of our legislature, and he ran in District 6. And Kate Craig at the same time, and I didn't know her at that time, was helping Nancy Fishman run for State House in District 7, and those are the two districts in Washington County. So that's how we initially crossed paths, and then we kept crossing paths and have become very good friends and peers within the local county party as well.
Awesome. And what has it been like to work alongside Kate?
I love Kate. I think she is a fantastic leader. I think she's one of the smartest political minds we have. I jumped into, I say helping someone run a race. I just bought some books and was like, hey, let's do this, knowing nothing about it. Kate actually has a strong background in politics and worked in a lot of organizations in D.C. And has also overcome a lot of personal adversity. She was in a motorcycle accident where someone just cut her off, and she had some major injuries that she's had to overcome and rehabilitate. That's one of the things that brought her back here to Johnson City home, and I'm sure you'll talk about that a little bit. And I think she is one of the most driven people that I know. Absolutely.
Awesome. And I was going to ask what makes her good for politics, but I think you really already answered that, so I don't want you to have to.
No, I could go on. No, I think one of the things I really appreciate about Kate is she's very committed to having a high integrity. She's committed to the process. And I think one of the frustrating things of working in an organization is people aren't used to it. They're used to just kind of wanting to do their own thing. And when you have an organization, you have to be cognizant of making sure all voices are heard and represented. And Kate does a fantastic job of making sure that no one gets left out. Even though sometimes like that, the whole process can be frustrating. Oh, are we going by our internal procedures? Are we doing this? Have we reached out to this group? And that can be frustrating because you're just wanting to do things. But I really appreciate that she has a very high level of integrity. I think that builds trust, especially in a time where there's not a lot of trust in politics, I think. So, yeah, that's one thing that I think she does really, really well. And she's an excellent organizer of people as well, which I've come to find out in working the local party in the last couple of years. Like, it's just difficult to do. It's difficult to keep people motivated and getting them to show up and reminding them, hey, here's this thing. And, you know, people get burnt out. And she's excellent at keeping people going as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and answering my questions, Brad. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing.